Mate, this is really unprofessional, but we are actually live and my phone's broke.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Boomer Bust NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. It's week 15, and I would be lying if I didn't say this has been one of the craziest weeks of the 2022 season. But tonight I'm joined by Shug to break down all that action. If you're watching live on YouTube just now, make sure you're getting involved in the comments section. We'll read the best of them out around the halfway mark and towards the end of the show. But make sure you're subscribing and liking. But Shug, it'd be wrong of me to start nowhere else, and unfortunately, it's the bad news, and it's that Jonathan Taylor has been ruled out for the season with a high ankle sprain. Now, in our two divisions, he was the first pick overall in both of them. It's not been his best season, but how much is a blow? How much of a blow is this to fantasy owners of Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, absolute massive. He's a huge player. As you said, don't know if there would be potential that he would come back. I think they're still waiting for results, but given their season's pretty much over anyway, there's no chance. There's no chance he'll make any comeback there. So huge blow if you've got him in your team. Absolutely massive.
Yeah, and when you say huge blow there, you're bang on the money, because when you draft Jonathan Taylor, you think in fantasy football, this guy literally never misses a training
Yeah.
session, never misses a game, he's never injured. He gets that ankle injury earlier in the season, and it's now another reoccurrence. And with the Colts really having nothing to play for, and it is a high ankle sprain, pretty much season done in fantasy terms, and season over as far as the Colts are concerned. But in fantasy football, Shug, crucial time of the season, playoff picture, this is big. And when we look at injuries like this, we look at who's the next guy up. The first guy
Yeah.
I think of is DEON Jackson. Are you liking to look at
Yeah.
him? Waiver wire pickup?
Yeah, potentially. It's between him and kind of Zach Moss, who's kind of really going to cover it there. So I think Deion Jackson's not a bad shout. I think obviously he's got to take on that huge gap left by Taylor. So I think when you get to this stage of the season, you have to look for guys like that. So he's not a bad shout, to be honest.
Yeah, I just think earlier in the season when Taylor was out with that ankle injury and Jackson came in and he done well. I know the weekend he maybe didn't do as well as what would have been expected considering how well he done at the
Yeah,
start of the season. Zach Moss done all right. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be running back by committee there, knowing that Moss is now there. But I think
hmm
Jackson is the better player. I just feel like he's a
yeah,
decent fantasy football player. Um, Across the course of the season, given how much Taylor gets the ball, and he's still scored 62.6 fantasy points, 191 yards. It's hardly staggering figures, but I think he's decent enough to fill in at this side of the season. Sorry for anyone that's listening, just put the car off the road with Shug's cough there.
Listen, at least I'm soldiering on.
Yeah, yeah, and it's good to have producer David back as well. He's been on IR this week, so
Yeah,
he's back from
I
the
had to
dead.
have that. Get that knife in right there, alright?
I don't miss weeks.
We're off the mark early. But no, sticking with the Colts, and kind of, it would be rude not to mention that game, Shug. Mental, crazy, the greatest comeback in NFL history. The Colts led the Vikings 33-0 at halftime. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I have never seen anything like it in football. I don't know about you.
Unbelievable. We were saying last week about the Vikings. We were just talking about that, how I felt as if their season was going to fall off a cliff. And, watching this first half, I thought we've got it absolutely spot on. Everything we said that you could fear about the Vikings was coming true, to be so far behind. And then, unbelievably, they've turned it around, which just shows they've got that mentality. They're by no means a perfect team, the Vikings, but they seem to dig out wins and they seem to have such character. Kirk Cousins, my quarterback in there, such an enigma as a player, because he has days, he has sloppy, he has stupid mistakes, but he produces points as well. I don't think he's anywhere near one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, but in fantasy terms, used at the right times, he's so valuable. It's so another huge win for the Vikings that we didn't see coming.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught the NFL Fantasy Football official account on Twitter. They tweeted the Vikings fantasy points at halftime, right? Kirk Cousins had minus 0.4 at the half, finished with 32.4. And you look across them, KJ Osborne, 3.6 points, finishes with 31.7. Now, there's a guy I'm looking at. I know we said at the top of the show that DEON Jackson might be the biggest waiver wire pickup this week. For me, KJ Osborne is right up there. Now, guys are going to be looking around at wide receivers, given that there's been a lot of injuries and guys have flopped this week. How high do you rank KJ Osborne? I mean, 31.7 points from 16 targets. Now, 16 targets is... Justin Jefferson gets 16 targets this week. I know guys will be like, oh, but Adam Thielen's there. But when you're seeing 16 targets to the one guy, it's ringing alarm bells in my head. This guy has to be picked up.
Yeah, absolutely. Started off with the week before. He's put up, I think it was just on 14 points the week before, which was a decent return. And then he's obviously been trusted, obviously targeted by more. So when you start producing that and your production's rising, you've got to take a look at a guy. You cannot sniff at a guy that's put up, over 10 points both weeks. He's got up to 31.7. You've got to start looking at him. He's targeted more. He's delivering. Got it to be an appealing option.
I know. And God forbid it happens that Justin Jefferson would get injured. This is the next guy up. And in playoff time, like if you've got the next guy up to Justin Jefferson, you've won a watch because Kirk Cousins isn't going to run the ball. He's going to throw all day, or he's going to go through Dalvin Cook. So for me, on you go.
Sorry, we said how the Vikings relied so heavily on just getting the ball to Justin Jefferson. So at one point in the playoffs, you're going to come unstuck with that, whether it's an injury or whether it's just a team shutting them out. So you've got to have this other weapon, and it shows they've got more than that to it. Well, Osborne getting more of the play.
Yeah, and looking at that game, when I was watching it, I think it was 36-3 at the time. The Vikings then got a touchdown, and I thought, right, okay, there's plenty of time in the clock. Another touchdown, it's like, okay, 36-14, and you're thinking, can they do it? And like, for anyone that didn't watch the game, they were robbed twice by the referees with scoop and scores with the defense as well. Now, think about this as well, Shug. Imagine you've got that Vikings defense, you're in the playoffs, and that's done you in your game. Because that was scoop and score, you're talking 12 points. You've just been robbed of there.
Yeah,
so pill to swallow. I know that game, right? And I don't know. We spoke on Thursday about the amount of football. Well, it's the same amount of football, but over more nights. So we had Thursday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. We've got a game tonight. We had the World Cup final yesterday for British football, and my God, like, talk about a weekend of unbelievable sport, eh?
I know. I think, given the World Cup final, how dramatic it was, I think you couldn't expect the NFL to in any way top that. But it gave it a right good go on Sunday night as well. And when you look over the piece of the weekend.
Oh, 100%, and we'll move on to the games as we go. But in terms of the Vikings, and you said it, Kirk Cousins, anybody on that Vikings offense is just so fantasy relevant just now. And I say the same for the Detroit Lions. I know I've picked up Jared Goff to plug a gap while Lamar Jackson's out. For me, on that offense, they score points every single week. So it's in the same bracket as that. When your quarterback's chucking to someone like Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to score points. He's always going to score points. But yeah, look around the league as well. And a guy we spoke about so heavily on Thursday night, and we said it, go and pick him up. He's become the running back one at the Chiefs just now. It was a toss of a coin between him, Isaiah Pacheco, and, well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is completely out of the picture just now. Jerick McKinnon is on fire, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he was your starter, so fair play to you. That absolutely spot on. We both spoke about him, how crucial he was going to be. And as you said, that the Chiefs just keep coming up with different weapons, and he seems to be one that's hot just now. So unbelievable. He's really on form, and he definitely could be a difference maker. If you've got him in your team, if you picked him up before he just sort of hit form, you've got a real chance.
It's nuts, eh? Like before the playoffs, you talked maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, you've got Jerick McKinnon in your team. He's probably one of the guys that kind of hung around your bench, and you probably thought about sending him to waivers. And then all of a sudden, you're in the playoffs. You've got Jerick McKinnon who's scoring back-to-back weeks with 30 points. I mean, last week, 34.2 points. And then this week, I think he scored the same. I think it was 34.2 points again this week. And he has been phenomenal. I know there'll be, at the start of the season, he spoke about the rookie running backs we thought could do well. Isaiah Pacheco being one of them, and he's not done it. Jerick McKinnon has blown him out of the water, and I just can't see any other running back now. When we talk about a guy that's sat about benches and been picked up waivers in terms of Jerick McKinnon, does he now become the guy that's the playoff winner, championship winner for guys?
Potentially, because he's probably in that category of, as you said, he's sitting on your bench. So he's not one of your big players. He's not what you relied on as one of your big weapons. So if you get on top of what you've already got in your squad and he comes in and he's putting up 35, 34 points, then that's a bonus of what you did not have a few weeks ago and could end up making the difference to win the playoffs.
I know. It's one of these crazy players. Like, us and many other fantasy football podcasts will have sat for weeks and weeks and weeks telling folk, draft this running back. And I mean, I don't know how many would have said Jerick McKinnon, the jerk. Yeah, so I wasn't far off.
A question for you. Do you think a lot of coaches, do you think they do know that they've got, sometimes they hold back weapons towards the end of the season so that they go completely under the radar? They don't use them as much, but they know they've got it. Do you think that happens?
I'm not sure. It's a weird one because we don't see what goes down in the training ground and things like that. So it's a weird one where these coaches are seeing the guys day in, day out. They're seeing their numbers, and it's almost like they've not made up their mind, because I've always had a clear disregard for the run game at the Kansas City Chiefs. I've always been pretty open about it. I didn't like Edwards-Helaire, never thought he lived up to the hype. Isaiah Pacheco has got potential, but McKinnon's always been a guy, even when he was at the Vikings, decent running back, decent player, had a couple of bad injuries, picked up by the Chiefs, and he's done well. And you've got to look at that player the Chiefs have picked up. Juju Smith-Schuster as well has done well, and these guys are going to make a Super Bowl run. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And clinched the division as well for the 7th time in a row.
That's crazy.
See, in American sports, you just don't see that kind of dominance because obviously the draft and it's more success is kind of weighed out. For the Chiefs to win that 7 years in a row is frightening.
I know, and that's Mahomes has only been there, what am I saying, 5 years? So even the 2 years previous to that, that's without Mahomes. They still secured that, but they were always there or thereabouts on the cusp, and along came basically the best quarterback currently in football, and Mahomes. Between him and Josh Allen, I'd say a wee bit of disregard to Joe Burrow there. But Shug, we're going to move on to the next game, right? And I've been beat again in fantasy football this week by 5 points, and I'm not a happy man. Last week I blamed injuries, and this week I am blaming the referees.
Right.
See that Raiders game that they've went and won in the last seconds of it? Okay, it was a bit funny in that, right? But that touchdown they scored with minutes to go, 7 down, he was out of bounds, man, right? And the referees haven't called it. My opponent had Derek Carr, so he's thrown a bomb in for a touchdown that's put in my head, right? So then what happens? Ramondre Stevenson absolutely bombs it up the park. No time left on the clock. Throws the ball laterally to Jacoby Myers. And what does he do? Throws it in the other direction to the Raiders, who go in for a walk-off touchdown to win the game. And who's got Jacoby Myers, Shug? Me.
Oh, honestly, it was so. I just don't know what he was trying to do. I don't know. I don't. At first, I thought, do they actually think that they're getting beat and they have to go for something? But I think as well, what you're looking at is not only you're losing out on potential. When I see a game going to overtime, you think you could possibly pick up some extra points where you've got a kicker or a few players. You think that's extra time that you can maybe pick up a few points. And to
bonus
throw the
football.
game away like that, exactly. You think, what why? It would just beggar belief, didn't it?
Yeah, and they didn't even have to go lateral with the passes. There was not enough time in
No.
the clock, and he goes to throw it to Mac Jones, who I don't think he's ever ran 60 yards in his life. Like he must have been the slowest guy on the field, and then he just gets absolutely mowed over straight
Yeah.
into the end zone, and I could not believe it. And I think this is the first time that this has happened since 1960, and if serves me correct, it was also the Raiders. Walk-off touchdown by the
Mad.
defense to win the game, and it's crazy. You only get these kind of things in the NFL, and for me yesterday, you look at the stats there: 2 receptions, 4.7 fantasy points for Jacoby Myers. Really, really annoyed me. That was his first game back from a concussion. Now, okay, a concussion's a bad injury, but it's not muscular or anything like that. He's cleared the protocol. He's had plenty of rest. He should have been a lot
Yeah.
better yesterday than he was, and he was atrocious.
Yeah. I mean, I think it sums up the Pats right now, to be honest. It probably sums them up since Brady. They're just such a sloppy and sometimes naive team. They just make so
Yeah.
many daft mistakes. They're not terrible. They obviously come up with some good results, but they're just so naive, aren't they?
Yeah, they just can't seem to get it done. So I don't know, but fair play to the Raiders getting the win, but
Yeah.
the Patriots just don't seem to be able to do it. But for anyone viewing, like, make sure you get your questions in on YouTube. We've also got in there, who are the best quarterback wide receiver tandem in football? Now, get your answer later in the show, Shug.
Yeah.
But let's see. We've already got in the comments Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson all day long for the Vikings. Just goes to show that you don't need your quarterback to carry your team and be the franchise player. Team sport through and through. Are you agreeing now?
It's when you're looking at duos, it's hard to disagree with that based on the points this year. It's hard to know. Fantasy wise, I agree. Whether or not they're actually the best in the league is a different question for me.
Yeah. We'll come back
But
to it. We
but
will.
yeah,
We'll come back to it. But yeah, keep the questions coming, keep the answers coming in the comments. Make sure you're getting involved. But Shug, we spoke about it earlier, waiver wire pickups. It's a very scarce time in the season. It's playoff season. A lot of guys' teams could be out on their ass, as we say in Scotland. Is there anyone else looking around that you like the look of on waivers?
I mean, look at them. One of what we've kind of looked at is Dotson. Um, Unexpected kind of star for Washington at the weekend. I think he's certainly worth a pick up. 6 touchdowns in the last 9 games. You cannot argue with that return. He's came back in there, done well at the weekend, so he's got to be one that you're looking at.
Yeah, I do like Jahan Dotson. I just don't know with Heineke at quarterback. I was expecting a bigger game from McLaurin yesterday against those G-men who are 93% sure of a playoff place now with the win against the Commanders, which I am absolutely delighted about. But I had Curtis
Yeah.
Samuel playing that game, bit of a letdown again. Maybe Giants got off with a PI call, but I'm happy at that. But no, in terms of Dotson, Steady Eddie started really well this season, fantasy wise, tailed off with an injury. Now that's him back in again. And I think he would be a decent enough pickup. I mean, there is always going to be
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin there, but Dotson passes the eye test. Good solid player, scores good points, and played well yesterday, touchdown yesterday as well. So you're right, for me, good pickup in waivers this week. If you're sort of, I can't see him being the first pickup. I think it's going to be KJ Osborne or someone like DEON Jackson, but he put up 20.5 points this week, which is solid figures. But when I look around, I like the look just now of Russell Gage. I think Brady's
Yeah.
starting to look his way. I think a lot of Mike Evans owners will be very disappointed in the return this year, given that last year he was so successful, one of the #1 red zone targets for any team across the league, and it's not happened. Russell Gage yesterday puts up 25.9 points, and the big one is 12 targets from Tom Brady against a good Bengals defence. Now, that's a good return, and he's going to be available in a lot of waiver wires. I think you had him at the start of the season, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he's another one. I think if I agree with you, I think he's worth a look at, especially if Julio Jones is inactive. I'd be keeping an eye on that. Go for him. Keep him on your bench. If Jones is inactive, if he misses it, then you're getting him in your team.
Yeah. And they've paid a lot of money for this guy and not really utilised him. So for me, it's about time that Russell Gage stepped up and done well. But it's looking like he's going to be more prominent in that Bucks offense, and the Bucks are going to be pushing for that playoff place as well. So they're going to
Yeah.
have to improve on offense because the past 2 weeks they have been atrocious, and the Bengals completely blew them out of the water. But we'll get to talking about them in the second half of the show. But we'll not hang around here too long, Shug. And before we go for a wee break here and a wee shout out to our sponsors, I'm going to give you a question, like I do every week, to be answered at the other half. Okay? So, like I said, with that Colts-Vikings game, the biggest comeback in NFL history. The Vikings coming from 33 down to win the game 39-36. But for me, there was a bigger stat in this game. Jeff Saturday became the first coach to do what in this NFL weekend? Do not answer this till after the break. If you get, I was going to ask you for ideas, but now wait till after the breaks. I think you might know.
Okay.
Okay, so now a big shout out to our sponsors. Firstly, G4 Claims. Unfortunately, we can't make it into the studio this week. Shug is carrying the man flu. Producer David's also recovering from it, so we're playing it safe given that Christmas is coming up. But make sure you check them out in the description on YouTube and also in the description of the podcast. That's notatfaultclaim.com. And also, a big shout out to our other sponsor. That's Manscaped. It's never too early to play holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants, you can make this a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favour and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com and use the code BoomerBus20 for free shipping and 20% off. Now, Shug, these products that they've got at Manscaped, it's not like one of these cheap box sets that you get. These are quality products, and we can 100% vouch for that, can't we?
Oh, absolutely tremendous, mate. I finished using it and I look like a Christmas turkey, to be honest with you. So,
there's so far I can go with this, but we'll keep it PG for now. All right. But no, once again, a big shout out to our sponsor, Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code BoomerBus20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code BoomerBus20. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. So, Shug, before the break, I asked you, Jeff Saturday became the first coach to do what this NFL weekend?
So I'm going to go with the obvious and say that the first coach called Saturday to play on Saturday.
You're on the
Something along
money.
those lines.
Jeff Saturday became the first NFL head coach to manage a team on a Saturday. What a lot of rubbish.
Aye.
I know. We spoke. There you go.
No, oh, then he's in.
The seal
Dave's
of
up.
approval. The seal of approval.
Just woke up.
He's just woke up. But Shug, we spoke about Mel on the show, Justin Jefferson, and this week, right,
Yeah.
straight in with it, Justin Jefferson is my boom this week. This guy is the best player in fantasy football right now, and if we were to draft tomorrow, first round, if he falls at me, if I'm first pick, put it this way, if I am first pick in our draft and we draft tomorrow, for talk's sake, I am
Oh,
picking up Justin Jefferson.
unbelievable. What a season he's had. And I like him because I've got Kirk Cousins. So it always seems to work well together. As you said, they're some pairing. And again, he's put up over 30 points. Incredible. He has been the outstanding player this season. He's been so good just about every week.
That's back-to-back weeks with 30-plus points. He sits at wide receiver 1 at the moment. And everybody talks about in drafts, draft running backs. Make sure you're drafting running backs in your first round. No, if you're in a PPR league, Justin Jefferson is a PPR machine. He's going to win guys leagues this year. Roberto, who's on the show quite regularly, has got Justin Jefferson sitting bottom of our league maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. Still get a chance to sneak into the playoffs because he's got Justin Jefferson. He has scored 327 points this season. It's just incredible. And
Unbelievable.
I don't think there's a better player in football with him right now than him right now, should I say. And every single week you're talking double-digit targets. I'm talking maybe the past 10 weeks he's been scoring that. So it's just unbelievable figures. There's nobody better at the moment. And it would be hard to disagree with that. If anybody can put up an argument in the comments, then feel free. But for me at the moment, there's no argument whatsoever. But aside from Justin Jefferson, Shug, who was your boom for this week?
My boom was Zay Jones. Now, for once I got it right when we were talking last week about starting him. I think you had your doubts, but incredible numbers he's put up again this week. It was a difficult one because up against the Cowboys were close to securing playoffs this weekend, and he's just produced the goods again. Unbelievable. Still a show. What a game as well. To end on, it was incredible. But Zay Jones again, he's just came hot right at the right time of the season.
Yeah, the Jags defeating the Cowboys, aside from the way the Raiders game ended, is maybe one of the shocks of the weekend. But like we spoke about, if you've got players that are on the Vikings offense, if you've got players that are on the Detroit Lions offense, and this is just for talk's sake, you can throw the Bengals and the Bills and that in there as well. But the Jaguars are putting up points every single week. Zay Jones had 34.9 fantasy points from 8 targets this week. Incredible numbers. And his wee cousin Marvin put up decent numbers as well.
And I was going to say, Lawrence as well, you've got it. He probably falls in a similar category as Cousins as a fantasy quarterback. He'll be inconsistent. He'll make some crazy decisions, but he does a lot of time produce big points for you.
Yeah, you're bang on the money there. Like, everyone spoke about Trevor Lawrence for so long before he was in the NFL, about how this guy is going to be a quarterback for a team for the next 10 years, hold that franchise quarterback position down, and just build a dynasty around about him. It's took him a while to get going, but are we now at the stage where he is really getting going? I think he put up something like 33.2 fantasy points this week, and that's the kind of numbers you're looking for.
I think so, and it's not a one-off. He does it quite a lot. As I said, he's still maybe struggling that little bit of consistency. You'd never describe him as a steady Eddie solid bet as a quarterback. He's one you bring in, and he's quite literally boom or bust for you, isn't he?
Yeah,
but this week, outstanding.
Yeah, and his targets as well, when you look around him, like Zay Jones has been brilliant, Christian Kirk as well. He uses Travis Etienne very well as a pass catching running back, who went slightly off the boil. But sorry, I was wrong with the figures. Trevor Lawrence, 26.82 this week, 33.4 last week. And we're talking 26.82 points against the number 6 defense against the quarterbacks and the Cowboys. They're a good team when you look at guys like Trayvon Diggs, who could easily pick them apart. Like, it's unbelievable numbers. So no, I'm absolutely loving it.
As you said, he's not had the perfect game. I think he had a mistake fourth quarter. Really bad one. I'm trying to remember it properly, but as I said, he's not played a perfect game, but he's putting up those points for you.
Yeah, he threw an interception in the fourth quarter. Took a sack, but even at that, he's now showing like, yes, sorry, am I right? Yeah, I'm right. He did take an interception, but yeah, we're now seeing that proper collegiate superstar that everybody spoke about before he came into the league. And the Jags look like they're getting things going. They're a decent side, and they've signed well, and that offense is only going to get better. So huge props to Jones. But the flip side of it, Shug, who drove you crazy this week? Who's your bust?
Well, my bust, I've changed it up a wee bit this week. I've went with the Bills defense.
Right, okay.
That is a defense that usually gets me good points, They're usually solid enough, and it's a game I did not expect there'd be a lot in. The weather was obviously, it got worse as the game went on, but we were expecting a low-scoring encounter. We were expecting not much going on in there. Bills defense, I think they only got 1 point for the game.
Uh,
But let's talk about it. Incredible game. I said I didn't expect a lot from Tua, but end up producing. Again, a positive for me because I had Tyreek Hill, who went on to get over 20 points for me. But Tua produced. Unfortunately, Dolphins came up a bit short, but another incredible game. To lose just by, I think they just lost by, was it a field goal at the end?
3, yep, field goal at the death, yep.
Yep. So a really good game. And I think the Dolphins will be feeling pretty good about themselves after that as well. I think they'll be feeling that, yes, it was a defeat. Yeah, they're kind of struggling just now, but there's still something about that team that can compete with anybody.
Yes. Do you know what disappointed me the most about that game? I planned my Saturday around staying up late for it, and it never snowed. I thought it
I know.
would.
Snowed until the fourth quarter did.
I know, but I was asleep by that point. I had given up.
Aye,
Did you see it in the stands? It was like foot deep in the stands and on the
aye.
seats, and that's commitment. Those Bills
Oh,
fans, like, we know they're crazy, but to stand in that for 2.5, 3 hours, prime time game,
100%.
that's
Aye.
you must. Did you ever experience weather like that in Nebraska? 'Cause that's quite a cold place, am I right?
Yeah, 100%. It was horrendous.
Did the fans ever come out and watch your team in that?
We didn't have it too bad. I remember when I was coaching, it wasn't snowing, but it was the coldest I've ever went in. And I think through the second half, I went to take a drink of water, and it just turned completely ice. There was other stories that there was teams playing in Main Fort Kent. Um, they were in our kind of nationals, and they played a team from Florida, and it was that cold that they had dryers near the field. And see the spare balls, they would put them in the dryers just to get ice off them.
Oh my god. No chance of sticking your head on one of them.
But
But quick,
it's the reality in
quick,
America. The show goes on, doesn't it? They just play.
absolutely. Snow is football weather. See if you're sometimes I'll go on YouTube. I look up like the
Aye,
greatest snow games of all time. It's
it's
nuts.
class.
It's always the Bills. Well, not always, but it's either the
Normally.
Bills or the Packers. But I'm going to quickly jump to one of the comments here. I'm going to jump back to Lawrence a wee bit here because this actually happened for Greg in our league as well. Stephen Waugh has commented saying, I started Herbert before Lawrence at QB, but got let down again. You're your own worst enemy there. Lawrence has been on
Aye,
fire, been banging
yeah.
the drum about him.
Mhm.
Herbert, I can see why you've done it. I can definitely see why he's done it in terms of Mike Williams been back and playing well. Keenan Allen looked good as well. Chargers are starting to look a wee bit more like what we expected. But Shug, massive on goal there. Herbert before Lawrence.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the time of year you've just got to go for it. With certain ones, and Lawrence gets you those points. We've all made the call it's cost us, but Lawrence there every day of the week he's starting for you just now.
And next game up's the Jets, who are another solid side. I think they're number 5 in the league
Yeah,
against the quarterback. So tough matchup, but the way he's playing, you've just got to roll it. You've just got to go with it.
exactly.
I know. But back to the positives, and in fact, no, we're going to stick with the negatives actually. And a guy I went to speak about earlier, who is my bust for this week, Joe Mixon. Now, here is a guy I drafted, and I thought he is going to be my ride or die this season. He's
Mm-hmm.
just going to put me. He's going to put me straight in playoffs. I'm going to have a chance of winning it. He plays in a Bengals offense that scores points for fun. Had a wonderful season last year, straight to the Super Bowl, and he has not done it in fantasy football this year whatsoever. And this week was no different. In a week that the Bengals scored 34 points against the Bucks, yeah, okay, the Bucks are good against the run, but for me, I'm just fed up of Joe Mixon. Do you know the last time he scored more than 20 points in a game? Week 1. That is not good enough. By this point last season, 20 plus point games, he had 7.
That's
10.4 points this week for a guy that's meant to be a top 10 running back in fantasy football is not good enough. So this week, Joe Mixon is my bust.
he's part of the reason you're down where you are.
Don't rub it in too much, but guess who's just appeared in the comments? I was actually going to phone the what's his
RSPCA.
name on one now? The RSPCA, you're probably right. I was actually going to phone for an ambulance to check for a pulse, but Toasty's now appeared in the comments. He's been playing World at Warcraft. He says, I had a great fantasy week, sent a specky gimp to relegation playoffs. When he says that, he means Drew.
Yep.
It's good to see he's still alive.
Aye.
But Shug, we'll not talk about fantasy football relegation because it looks like I'm destined. I'm down there in the consolation bracket, which really hurts and it cuts me deep. But anyway, give me a honourable mention this week for your
So
fantasy football.
I'm going to go with Dawson Knox. He had an outstanding week again. I brought him in 2 weeks ago, and he's produced the week before 14.1 points. This week 21.8. He just produced the goods for me. I've just thrown him in a wee bit. I wouldn't say a wild card, but he's not ever been mentioned in the top tier of tight ends or anywhere near it. But got him in, and again he's produced the goods. 21.8 is brilliant return.
100%. In terms of Knox, like quiet start to the season, and he's coming good. Like we spoke about Jerick McKinnon
Yeah.
coming good at the right time of the season for guys. Zay Jones for you as well, putting up huge points. And Dawson Knox, like I never wanted someone to do well so much in all my life, considering like his brother passing away and stuff before the season started, and just seems an honest big guy, and the team want him to do well. So yeah, it's great to see him doing so well, and such a great offense as well at the Bills. And it is quite risky starting them in terms of the amount of targets that go around at the Bills. But yeah, I'm going to move on to my honourable mention as well, and it's Justin Fields. Now, Bobby was riding the Justin Fields train last week, and rightly so. He gave his bold prediction saying that Justin Fields is going to finish as QB1. Not sure if he'll finish that high, but almost see when you've got Justin Fields in your team, he's almost a guaranteed 20 points every single week. Now this week he was up against the number 2 defense in the league, in the Eagles, and he still scored 23.58 points. Outstanding. And once again, we talk about guys coming right at the right time, and he's the man right now. He's everything I wanted when drafting Lamar Jackson. Doing it with his legs, doing it with his arm, making the right decisions. Next season, this guy's going to be drafted top 3, top 4 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I right in saying he was close to coming off injured yesterday as well?
He took a sore one. It looked like his hip or his leg. The way he was limping to the side, it looked sort of like a dead leg. But as far as I know, he's okay at the moment. So
yeah,
Justin
so,
Fields
he's got character as well. It's sometimes you see this. I think it looked as if he could be out the game, and he's come back out. So it's always a good thing to see that he's robust, that he's got that character to come back out.
Yeah, he's just, when you look at him, his physique as well, his legs are like tree trunks, man. And Justin Fields for me has just had an outstanding season. And when we talk about guys we spoke about Trevor Lawrence as well, that came with a huge reputation, never really done it at first. Fields has come of age, and he's come of age at the right time. He's been phenomenal, and he's in our league. He's carried Steve-O into the playoffs. He's been brilliant.
Yeah,
but
yeah, absolutely.
That pretty much wraps it up for our Boomer Bust for this week. But looking ahead as well, we put a question into the comments section of our YouTube Live as we're on it, and we asked the listeners who's the best offensive duo, quarterback, wide receiver in the NFL right now. I'm going to kick off, Shug, and I am going to say when they're on the money, for me it's Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Just seems that there's that telepathy when things aren't going right. Allen will go to Diggs every single time. It's like everybody else just gets thrown out the picture, and Diggs is the man. He goes there, and it's almost like they're completely on the same page now. I think last year everybody would have been saying it was Burrow and Jamar Chase, just
Yeah.
because they played at college together as well, and how much it carried them to the Super Bowl. But is there anyone else that comes to mind for you? Do I even need to ask this?
No, well, I have mentioned others other than Tua and Hill, but I think Tua and Hill deserve that recognition. I think the first season playing together, there was a lot of scrutiny, a lot of criticism over could Tua produce the goods. Was Hill going to be as effective going down to Miami? And they've answered that in abundance. Now, Tua has had these couple of injuries, had these couple of bad weeks, but overall, they've produced, and for the first season together, that partnership could grow and grow. Now, do I think Tua is as much? I think Hill is probably in the top 1, 2, 3 wide receivers. Do I rate Tua as highly in terms of quarterbacks? Probably not. He's up there, but not in that total elite category. So for Allen and Diggs, I think it's a great shout, but I'm going to go. I think Jamar Chase and Burrows is probably the one of the better shouts. As you said, played together since college, showed that they've got what it takes to carry them to the Super Bowl. They've just got so much about them. Other ones that I like, well, it was mentioned earlier, Jefferson and Cousins, but CD Lamb and Dak Prescott, I think, is an underrated one as well. I think when they're
That's a great
pun,
shout.
they're a good, they're a good combination. I think Dak gets criticised heavily. He had a few injuries, but I think they're a great pairing as well.
For a man like you with puns that's using purring with CD Lamb, I'm hugely disappointed in you. For me, if I wasn't saying Josh Allen and Diggs, I'm definitely going with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown this season. Fantasy owners for either of the two of them are laughing. It's
Yeah,
just points after points after points every week, and you can tell why Mike Vrabel at the Titans was so disappointed to lose AJ Brown, because it's almost like they've lit another fire under him. We knew he was good at the Titans, but at the Eagles, this guy's a different animal. And the Eagles, I would be surprised if they didn't go all the way to the Super Bowl. They've got weapons all over the field.
yeah, 100%.
So for me, it's a hard one. I think it's a toss of the coin between Josh Allen and Diggs and Hurts and AJ Brown for me. But if it wasn't QB wide receiver, you'd also be talking about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many. I think that's why it's so wide open. I think we went a few years ago where you just thought the number one quarterback in the league is Tom Brady, and you just thought anything else is below that. Now I think it's so wide open. We've got so many good quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
But I see Toasties in the comments.
He's saying no laughing anymore. Hurts is hurt. I didn't actually know he was injured, but
Yeah.
the good thing is that guy's karma's starting to come. His injuries are piling up. Damian Pierce out as well. Ramondre Stevenson's on a shaky nail. Cannot believe he scored points from him last night as well with that run towards the end. But any more questions, keep them coming in the comments section. We'll grab them just before we finish. But we're coming towards the end of the show, and as ever, we're going to go to a game. And this week, Shug, you're going one-on-one with the great one. Producer Dave's going to pick it up from here, and he's got a wee game in hand for us, haven't you, David?
I most certainly have.
No need to sound enthusiastic about it, mate.
You're just that way. You just kind of like looking over all you know, so you kind of got everything, like, just so everyone knows at home. Like, I've got like 5 screens in front of me, and as well as that, I'm always like kind of like texting Kyran or Shug to be like, this is what's going on. So it's absolute madness. So yes, I most definitely do have a game. We are going to play Tom Brady is Looking Shady. So it's the game where I'm going to give you a clue, and the answer always has to rhyme. So if I had to turn around to you and say that the Buccaneers quarterback is lurking down dark alleys, you would say to me,
Tom Brady is looking shady.
Don't sound too enthusiastic, guys, you know.
You two are falling asleep. It's all the painkillers and flu pills you've been taking.
It's definitely that time of year. So, right. Okay, guys. Are you ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Right. First one up.
John Anderson.
New England Patriots wide receiver played so badly that he's had to cash in his pension?
Jacoby Myers looking for buyers.
Not looking for buyers. Close.
Myers.
You got the right player.
Jacoby Myers
gonna
is looking
retire?
to retire.
Oh, there you go. I think Shug just nipped that away from you there.
Just
Piss off,
get
man.
in there.
Listen, I can't help it. You gave
He's
away the
gonna
game.
retire.
You gave it
gonna
away. I
retire.
can't help that.
Nah, point for Shug.
Out of order. Oh, the sick boys stick together, eh?
Right, next one up, guys. 1-0.
Right, sick note. Hit us with the next one.
Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker has splashed out on a huge boat for Christmas.
JJ Watt has bought a yacht.
Oh, rapid.
Back.
Absolutely rapid.
Back.
Right, that's good. 1-1, 1-1. Okay, last one,
I
guys.
love how I said the wrong name and you gave me the point now.
Did you? I didn't even realise.
Take a point off.
No, we'll carry on. You didn't realise you've took my first answer.
Then, right, last one.
Just
This
like
is
the
decider.
Okay.
Decider, right. Here we go. Dallas Cowboys offensive guard has put all his Scottish clobber on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Put his clobber on. Offensive guard.
Offensive
Dallas.
guard.
You do realise this is fantasy football. Nobody cares about offensive
Well, the thing
guards.
is, you know what? It's every week, I always think, we do too much on just like, it's always offense. And I was like, you know what? Let's really kind of put it out there. Don't get me wrong. I picked defensive players this week, apart from the first one, but I thought I'm going to pick defensive players that you may know.
Right, offensive guard. I should.
Okay,
know
I'll tell
this.
you what. I will give you the first name, and if I give you the first name, it'll be fastest finger, okay?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so the offensive guard I'm talking about, the Dallas Cowboys. Don't look at the comments because Toasty is rapping and has got it. The
of course
offensive
he
guard
has.
is Zach Martin,
Zach Martin.
and he's got all his Scottish clobber on.
Zach Martin has got his Bergos on. Zach Martin.
Where are we starting?
Yeah! I'm sorry, I can't argue with that. Well done, Shug. It's 2-1, and looking at the comments, Toasty was all over it yet again. Well done, Toasty.
I cannot believe I've been beat there.
2-1.
I can't seem to buy a win these days. But no, producer David, thank you as ever for that game. Shug, thank you as ever for being a superb co-host. For anyone watching or listening, please make sure you're subscribing. We want to try and get to 100 subscribers on our YouTube and even more on your podcast apps. Socials, we are at Boomer Bust Pod, and as well as YouTube, Boomer Bust Pod. So, Shug, good luck in the playoffs. Actually into the semi-finals, if I'm correct.
Cheers, mate. Good luck in the relegation dogfight.
Thank you very much, mate. And hopefully we're talking about the same league when we're on here next season. But thank you to everyone that's listened. Thank you everyone that's tuned in on YouTube. If you're not watching on Thursday, I hope you have a great Christmas. Goodbye.